Assalamu alaikum and welcome to a new video in the Farsi script. In today's lesson we are going to talk about methods and ways of writing the Farsi script. So we've got four main methods. The first one would be the mursala. Now mursala, I just roughly translated into sent or like on a straight line. For this one you're going to use one line and you are going to add extensions and create Qashida elongations to ba, fa, kaf first. Then if you needed you would use sin, sheen and ya. But you would start with those three main letters. Now for this one you'll have your baseline over here, and this baseline would be the line where the whole script would come on. So for example, either I'm going to be quick here just to make the video short because we are only talking about the ways of writing. إذا الشعب شعب. Now you see here we've got a ba, so this ba will be extended with the Qashida. إذا الشعب يوما أراد الحياة. يوما. Again, I'm not being too fussed about the shapes, just want to show you the general idea of this method of writing the Farsi. إذا الشعب يوما أراد الحياة. ألف راء ألف دال, and here الحياة we could elongate it. They are in الحياة. So this is a quick explanation, like quick example. So for the mursali, as we can, we've got one line, and here we can see that every single word is separated properly from the other. And we could add Qashida elongations depending on the prettiness of a script. So for example, إذا الشعب يوما أراد الحياة فلا بد أن يستجيب القدر. يستجيب, we could add the ba, the يستجيب ba. فلا بد أن يستجيب القدر. So we've got, for example, three elongations, and this is for the mursali, the first type. The second type would be mudmaja. Now let's call it joint, because the thing with this is that we have one line but we don't add any extensions or elongations, and for this one it would look something like this. So وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ سُلَالَةٍ مِنْ طِينٍ. Wow, وَلَقَدْ. So in this one, as we said, we don't add any extensions. خَلَقْنَا, خَاء and lam. And the letters are very close to each other. The words, I mean. الإنسان. Noon, Seen. I'm going to use the Quranic way of writing things because it's a verse. So here instead of an alif we add just this because it's the Quranic way of writing. Min Sulalatin. Again Sulala, we've got an alif here. Min Teen. So what's the difference between this one and the one above it is that we don't add any elongations at all, because we could have added elongation with kha and seen here, but no, in this mudmaja, which means joint, which means very compressed, the words could come on top of each other like this one, here and here, and it's written with a very short let's say follow-up between words. Now with regards to the harakat, this is something we talked about before. وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ سُلَالَةٍ مِنْ طين. So this is how you would add harakat. And this is for the second type. So the main difference, as we said, is the no extension fact. Now, the third type, here we get into more artistic ways of writing. We have something called muqtarina, which means attached, sort of. Now for this one, what we are going to do, we are going to use more than one line, and we are going to use extensions as the base for a new word. So here we've got the main line, and we will write وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْطِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَى وَلَسَوْفَ wow. Now here we have a fa which contains the kshida elongation. وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْطِيك. يُعْطِيك could come into this space in the fa's elongation, and this will add another line up here. So يُعْطِيك. And the kaf would be the short one, so that it would fit in. We could add the dots for the ya down here. وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْطِيكَ رَبُّكَ. رَبُّكَ would come down to the same line here. And we are going to use the extension of the kaf as the second attachment or اقتران. رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَى. فَتَرْضَى would come with the same line as this one. So here we've got the fa, and we are going to add a kshida ta, and the ra would go down here, and we're going to put the dots here. فَتَرْضَى, we have a dad and a ya. So the iqtiran means that you have elongations that are used as a cup for the words above them. This is the third, and it's more artistic way. Now you could have more than one, so you could have it look like a staircase. Like this is the first, you've got a first word here, then elongation, then the second word come here, then elongation, then the third word would come over here. So you could use more than one, just not too much. I think I've seen 4, 5 steps. Now moving on to the fourth way of writing, and this is the murakkaba, which means composite. Now this is the most artistic way of writing Arabic calligraphy, and it's in all scripts, especially in thuluth. Now for the murakkaba, we first choose a shape that we want the tarkib, the composition, to be written within. So shapes could go from ellipse, circles. You sometimes see it in a sort of rectangular shape, or a rectangular with boundaries on the right and the left. You could also see it as a pear shape, this shape, and the hazelnut shape. So you've got lots of shapes to deal with, but the most abundant one are those two, the circle and the ellipse. So here we are going to use the ellipse one, and we are going to do to write وَمَا النَّصْرُ إِلَّا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. So we start with the waw. We could add the meme down here. وَمَا النَّصْرُ إِلَّا من عندي Now this should be bigger. من عند الله. Now there's a completion of this إلا من عند الله العزيز الحكيم. We could add these here with a smaller pen. But what I wanted to show you is the idea of writing it. So you don't have lines at all here. It's just choosing the best way of composing letters so that they look and words so that they look really nice in the shape and they could fill in the whole space. And you depend on the letters to fill in the negative space. You don't like the harakat later on, like this, عندي إلا من عند الله. You would add to fill in the gaps, but the main space would be filled with the thickness of the letters themselves and the words. That's a very important thing. So for example, you wouldn't have a shape where you are going to fill letters in this space, for example, but you end up with a very big negative space that is empty, so you decide to just add harakat and try like these leaves or mawazin to fill in the gap. No, you have to study and do several designs so that the shape will be filled with the words themselves. Also, a very important note is about lafz al-jalala. In tarakib, sometimes you will see lafz al-jalala either written down at the bottom of the script, or you would see it written like shaped downward, like on this shape, or for example flipped all around, for example this way. But personally, I think also some calligraphers make sure that lafz al-jalala, wherever it comes, it's always on top. You would put it first on top, or top right, or top left, but it has to be on top. This is just to give its sort of value, because you can't do it and put it down. Though you will see examples on the internet and everywhere, old calligraphers writing lafz al-jalala whatever they wanted to, like to fit in the design. But this is a very important note. Try your best to have lafz al-jalala written in the same orientation, so Allah, and on top of whatever you want to write, or like if it was a curved shape, or like here we have sort of a going up movement with the lines. And this is a very important note in my opinion. Now these are the four main types. We said we've got the mursala, the mudmaja, muqtarina wa murakkaba. Now there are schools of Persian script. We've got the Persian school, we've got the Turkish school, we've got the Pakistani school, we've got the Arab school, and I think there's Indian one. So each one of these have specific, let's say, specialities in them. For example, the Persian one, they use a difference between two pens, which is 1 to 4. So one is fourth the thickness of the other, and that gives you very thin lines connected to very thick ones like this. And the alifs are very thin. So this, I'm just talking about the differences that you might see out there. The Turkish, they use 1 to 3, so third, and this gives you a different style, let's say. What do you call it? The thicknesses in the scripts would change from that. And moving on to the Pakistani one, now here you could see that they use ha instead of ta marbuta, and they have the kaf with a hat, which is resembling a letter that we don't have in Arabic. I think it's either jim or ga. I'm not sure. I think it's ga. So you will see letters that are different in the Pakistani version, and you will have the dots that are curved upward instead of the dots that we talked about before, the normal one. These are different. In the Arabic one, we use 1 to 2. So the thickness we go with is half the thickness of the full one. Not big variations. And in the Indian one, there's also the Seen's teeth, which are very high. They look like ruqa rather than Farsi. Now these differences, some calligraphers make a big deal out of them. For me, I'm not quite fussed about it. The main thing is just to choose a style and stick with it. That's very important. But I guess everyone for their taste. Now going back to the tarakib, for example, وَمَا النَّصْرُ إِلَّا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. You could write and you could, but it doesn't mean that you should. Some calligraphers would use, for example, min. So this is going down like this, and they want the ain to do the same thing. So they might do the following. They might go down and then do this. Although it gives you a nice shape in the composition, let's say, idea, but here the word is read the other way around. You start with the ain, then you go back to the noon and dal. There are some examples out there where people decided to switch the curvature and replace the word. Now you could do that in scripts, normal ones in poetry, but in the Quran, personally I prefer to just keep it as clear as possible for people to read. But I had to mention this one because sometimes you would see some calligraphers change the way a word is written just to fit in the beauty that they desired. This was a relatively lesson about the styles and types that we can see out there. And the next one we are going to talk about the normal one, the mursala, and some notes on how to write and the skills we are going to use. This was to explain to you that you choose a style so that you know what you are writing with. So if you want the muqtarina, you know that this has these rules about it. You have more than one line, and words will come into the elongations of letters. Don't forget that the main letters that you elongate are ba, fa and kaf. Now when we say ba, we mean ba by itself, not like ta could go into it, but tha is rarely stretched, it's mainly ba. Noon is not stretched unless it was very necessary, because the noon is a different letter than the ba, and the ba is known that it has a very long cup, meanwhile the noon is rounded. Now there's a cup for the noon that we didn't talk about, and that one sort of comes in this shape if it was connected. So you go up, you go down, and you give it this noon cup. Now you will see it out there, especially in Al-Fatiha wal Dallin. This is the connected one. I forgot to mention it, but here you go. You could look it up and you will find it. But try this one, because this one in my opinion is harder and is more abundant, and the shape is what calligraphers like about it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, subscribe and share these videos if they help you to learn calligraphy, and we'll see you in the next one. Have a lovely day. Goodbye.